Many people in this country and around the world have been shocked and are confused, feel as if they are wandering and lost in a dark and uncertain time. And so we turn not so much to the analysts of the news, not so much to the pundits of the daily events, but we return to the Isha Upanishad, to the sacred teachings that have lasted for thousands of years, guiding people through many, many cycles of dark and uncertain times. The Isha Upanishad, which begins with that wonderful invocation, Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiwa Vishishate in Sanskrit, and it basically says in English that all that arises is an emanation of radiance. And though in infinite numbers of patterns emerge from that radiance, from that wholeness, the wholeness remains whole and undiminished. It's as though an infinite number of vibrations arise out of silence. An infinite number of expressions, of words arise out of silence. And yet that silence remains ever present. And this is the core understanding, the core teaching, the teaching that we return to again and again, which is to discover that our own being, that our own experience, that this moment, that this life, that this event, this person, this is an emanation of the radiance. And so we're going to look at the first two passages in Isha Upanishad and explore them and listen to them. When we listen to these teachings, it's as though we're back in the forest of the ancient days, where the sage has returned from his or her meditative practice with a revelation. So we listen with a meditative ear, with an undefended heart, not to believe, but to step into the perception, to step into the attitude, to step into the stance and the recognition that is encoded in these words. Isha Upanishad section 1 says, all that exists is of radiance. Claim nothing. Cling to no thing, that it clings not to you. Find the Lord, the radiant, generative presence that dwells in the heart of each person, event, or thing. Know that the form is not the essence of what appears before you. Covet not forms. There's so much in this. First, it begins with this idea of letting go and not claiming. But this means that you can appreciate and love and serve and care for the life that is in front of you, but not claim it as mine. Not claim it to the self. Not create an identity that is identified with particular patterns of people, events, and things. But at the same time, not to reject people, places, people, events, and things as a way of forming a special kind of spiritual identity. Rather, it says, tune in, find the radiant, generative presence that dwells in the heart of each person, event, or thing. How do we do this? We do this by cultivating meditative awareness. As Patanjali says, Chitta Vritti Narodaha, the stilling, when we still the patternings of the mind, when we still the patternings of consciousness, then the self rests in the revelation of its own true nature. And as we more and more cultivate meditative awareness, then we are able to experience that which arises before us as person, as event, or as thing. We can experience it both in its form nature, but also in its essential radiance. Rather than reject forms, rather than reject people, rather than reject things or events, we can relate to them skillfully and realize that in the heart of each being, that radiant generative presence resides. And that is the cause of all the movements. As the Gita says, in the heart of every being, the Lord, the radiant generative presence abides, propelling. It causes all to spin and life to be directed from deep, deep within. What does this mean? It means that our life is being directed, as it were. Our life is being moved and motivated by that inner radiance, which is seeking one primary thing, which is to fulfill your deepest dream, to awaken your deepest longing, to realize your deepest call, which is to be the embodied presence of who you are, which is the radiance itself.